Helmut Marko's future at Red Bull is in jeopardy, with senior figures pushing for his removal. This potential change could crumble the reigning world champions. Helmut Marko, the Austrian former racing driver and current advisor to the Red Bull Formula teams, appeared to be untouchable during the reign of co-founder Dietrich Mateschitz. However, since Mataschitz's passing, a new dynamic has emerged at Red Bull, curtailing Marko's influence and impacting his operations. The Sporting CEO, Oliver Mintzlaff, is said to be one of the many Red Bull employees who wants Marko's head on the chopping block, as well as the current team principal, Christian Horner. So what's driving this sudden decision, and how might it affect Red Bull? Today, the F1 Report brings you exclusive insights into the management turmoil at Red Bull and the threats it poses to the team's future. But before we get into it, kindly like and subscribe to the channel, and without ado, let's get into it. Helmut Marko recently faced criticism for making xenophobic and false statements about Red Bull's driver Sergio Perez. This did not sit well with many team members, including team principal Christian Horner. Although Marko had apologized for his comments, the incident had brought a whole lot of tension and backlash to the team, and has also been attributed to some of the reasons why the Mexican driver, Sergio Perez, has had it very difficult to stabilize and get back to his brilliant form we saw at the start of the 2023 season. These issues stemming from Marko's actions have harmed the team. In the wake of the passing of Marko's close friend and Red Bull founder, Dietrich Mateschitz, the remaining leadership at Red Bull and its Formula One team wants Marko gone, possibly before the next race. According to Brazilian outlet Globo, a meeting will be held this week that will determine Marko's future within Red Bull. This also comes off the back of a rise in tension between the team's principal Christian Horner and Marko, with Horner taking an increased role in the running of Red Bull's sister team, AlphaTauri, a role previously held by Marko. Horner has been directly involved with the hiring of AlphaTauri's new CEO and team principal, and is reportedly looking to make changes to the team's driver lineup, a move which would lose the team $10 million from Honda and potentially hurt the relationship between both brands. Horner also seeks more control over the Red Bull F1 team and AlphaTauri, diminishing Marko's influence. However, Horner isn't the sole opposition. New Red Bull executive Oliver Mintzlaff also questions Marko's role in the team, considering it irrelevant and potentially harmful. Regardless of the news, Marko has denied these reports, stating there is no truth to the report. When asked how he was doing, the 80-year-old replied saying, "Good. Contrary to many assumptions, I have to disappoint the, as they say, doomsayers." Does this mean that the news is false, or is Marko disregarding senior figures in Red Bull? Well, it seems as though Helmut Marko might not be attending the so-called meetings scheduled for this week before the race weekend in America, because according to the Austrian, there is no crisis meeting, summit, or crunch talks. There is no summit this week. I have a contract until the end of next year. When and how I stop, when it's over, I decide, and not, for example, Mr. Horner. Marko clarified, speaking to OE24. But that certainly does not mean there isn't trouble brewing in Red Bull. When asked if there was a power struggle between specifically him and Horner, Marko admitted that certain individuals are trying to gain more power within Red Bull. Although he didn't call names, it's clear that he was referring to Christian Horner and his decisions in AlphaTauri. There are rumors about changes in AlphaTauri, with Horner seeking to replace Yuki Tsunoda with Liam Lawson. Marko responded, "This is all just speculation, just like the one about Perez. There is no ultimatum for Perez. I think we're winning too much. Incredible things are being brought into the world. Max Verstappen's performance should be appreciated much more. It is extraordinary." In contrast, Christian Horner does not see Helmut Marko as an integral part of Red Bull's racing decision-making. He emphasized that Marko isn't part of Red Bull Racing, but rather a consultant for its parent company, Red Bull GmbH. "He's not an employee. He's not on the payroll of Red Bull Racing," said Horner. Although the senior staff at Red Bull, including Horner and Mintzlaff, as well as Sergio Perez, who's been highly criticized by Marko, would love to see him fired, there's a risk of unsettling the three-time world champion Max Verstappen. Can Marko be reassured by Verstappen's support? If the reported meeting occurs, the senior figures must consider Marko's influence on Verstappen. His presence has contributed to Verstappen's comfort and F1 dominance, bringing unimaginable success to the team. Former F1 driver Ralf Schumacher has backed Marko to win the battle, highlighting that Marko has Max Verstappen in his corner. Schumacher advises Horner not to put any further pressure on Marko, as that wouldn't end well for the Red Bull principal. He claims that the connection between Helmut Marko and Max Verstappen shouldn't be underestimated by Horner, stating that Marko promoted Verstappen early on and is always on his side. Regarding Verstappen's stance on the issue, Ralf Schumacher said, "We hear that Verstappen wouldn't tolerate it, but would rather do without Horner." When asked about Verstappen's support, Marko replied, On the one hand, that is very reassuring. There's still something like loyalty and appreciation. Since our first conversation when Max was 15, there has been a special connection between us. For now, Marko seems to be downplaying the news about any meeting being held over his future in the team. His focus right now is the race weekend in America and nothing else. Now I'm looking forward to Austin, where we can hopefully celebrate his 50th Grand Prix victory on Sunday, Marko said. Is there a meeting after all? Will next year mark the end of Helmut Marko's time at Red Bull? Many questions remain unanswered, but one thing is clear. Before the race at Circuit of the Americas in Texas, we will know Marko's fate. Unfortunately, it doesn't look favourable for the 80-year-old Austrian. The leadership at Red Bull appears to want him out, and public backlash over his comments adds to the pressure. What do you think is the best option for Red Bull? Should they retain Marko or part ways with him? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. And also don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on the latest F1 news. Until next time, goodbye.